Hello, everybody, and welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around Fantasy Premier League. My name is Suj.
And my name is James.
We're back at you on a Monday. Usual timestamp, 10:30, 17th of the 1st, 2022. It's my old man's birthday today.
Happy birthday to the old man.
Yeah, he couldn't care less about football, mate. I don't even know if he knows I've got a podcast about it, to be honest with you.
He definitely does.
Oh, dear, yeah. 17th of the 1st, can't forget it. We are back on a Monday. We had 8 games of football this weekend. Less than we thought we'd have at the deadline, but we did have suspicion. We thought we were going to get 9. We ended up getting 8. And it
kind of became clear in the half hour before deadline that Tottenham and Arsenal was probably going to go.
Yeah, they requested the postponement before, got approved after. Having said that, in a couple of mini leagues that I'm in and what have you, with people that are not what you'd call community active, a few free hits with triple Spurs, mate. Which I feel for. Not even like one of my mates as free hit, triple Spurs, Captain Ronaldo has got Bruno Fernandes. So you're thinking, oh, that's all right. He's come out the weekend with 25 points at the moment as it stands. And I'm sitting on 46 with like having not done anything and tried to attack the double game week. So if you are sitting there with your head in your hands or confused or scratching your head or whatever else, all good. James and I are here, and we're going to brighten up your Monday with rants and bants and all sorts, aren't we?
I mean, just to show you, just to highlight what you're saying, these statistics from Live FPL, this is only from the top 10K, but gives you a fairly clear sample. 7% of the top 10,000 used their free hit.
So 700 people.
No, 7%.
Yeah, 700 people. Yeah, so a lot of people.
737 to be precise, actually, 7.37%, and their average at the moment is 36.91. Those with no chip used average 46.08. So at the moment, non-chippers in the top 10K are 10 points ahead. Now, those on the free hit probably got more players to go, so it will level out. But yeah, the fears around using it. And we said, I mean, the last thing I signed off about my deadline stream on Friday was speak to you Monday and we'll review this shit show. And I kind of knew it was going to be a shit show. And I think the midweek fixtures for most are still going to be a shit show as well.
Yeah, I agree with you as well. And so we're not here to wallow in self-pity about what FPL has become, but we just roll with the punches and have a bit of fun. It is a game at the end of the day. And I can't say I can't say my enjoyment has waned or anything. Like, I'm not sitting here thinking, this is crap, what am I doing? But then also, I suppose I'm sitting in a position where I haven't used any of my chips yet. And generally, I've been doing okay. Like, I'm grey in terms of my arrows. A couple of weeks ago, I was at 140, went up to 120. I'm at 130. Got 5 players still to go, including Captain Ronaldo. I feel
just to clarify for those who've never listened to Planet FPL before, so it's just mean 130,000, not 130.
Yeah, to clarify for any listeners that are new or have not started listening from day one and a recent,
we're shit
at FPL. I've never in my FPL career had a 5-figure rank. I've never been inside, not even for a period of a season. I've never had a 5-figure rank. So the day that happens,
I think you're gonna do it this year, mate. Yeah, 100%. I think you're gonna do it. 100%. Oh, that's
I have no doubt this year I will be able to, mainly because I've still got all my chips, mate. So
yeah, and as you've just seen, it's quite capable of fucking it up with those chips, mate.
Yeah, to wrap up, as it stands at the moment, mate, I'm on 46 points. So obviously I had returns from Cancelo and Trent, which most people did, and Bowen, and an assist from Antonio is all I picked up this week. I made I made 2 free transfers and took a -4, James. I sold, who did I sell? Eric Dyer, who has disappeared. And that was quite late news that we got on Eric Dyer, wasn't it? It suddenly went from yellow to red. It's like, oh, what's happened there? And
Conte did his press comments on Friday afternoon and said he's not going to be back. It's like, oh, wow.
Till February. So I believe that.
Is that your phone going off during the podcast?
It might well be.
Do you need to answer it, sweetheart?
Possibly. Go on, talk about Conte's press conference.
But you did said that Dyer was out. I've got nothing else to add. So just actually answering the phone. Fine. While he's doing that, I'll tell you about my game week. Fucking what a joker. I scored 53 points. I've not got many to go, admittedly. I've only got 4 players still to go, although effective 5 with the captaincy. I made 1 free transfer. I sold Heung-min Son and I bought Leandro Trossard. As I explained on my Patreon pod on Friday and the deadline stream on Friday, my decision making to go with Trossard was very much about looking further ahead rather than just looking at this particular week. Because I love the run of fixtures that Brighton have got from game week 25 to 28. They're obviously blank in 24, but as I don't own any Chelsea players, I can comfortably bench him that week. I may even end up benching him this week against Leicester. It might be a close call between him and Jacob Ramsey, who goes to Everton. My scorers were 11 for Cancelo, 10 for Trent, 7 for Bowen, 4 for Antonio. That's about my lot. Jacob Ramsey, 12 points sitting on the bench. Oh, I forgot my captain points. David De Gea, 4-pointer for times to 8. And I'm really pleased with that because 1, I shouted goal when Villa scored the equaliser because I think of Tottenham first. But 2, it was more, okay, let's target the clean sheet at Brentford. Whatever comes with Villa is a bonus. I'd looked at him going into the game week and thought the worst case scenario for De Gea probably would be a 6-pointer or so. And I really didn't fancy buying Bruno personally. Although on paper, I think, in spite of the fact you can say, like, there was no statistics, we know the capability of the player was the right choice for many, and those who went with him, very well done. But it was going to potentially block me if I did want to go to Ronaldo in a couple of weeks because I would have had 3 United. And it was potentially blocking me future transfers with Salah in mind as well, because knowing that if he did go in there and did well, and people might struggle with this, he's not going to be easy to get rid of come game week 24 when he's got Burnley away, then Southampton, then Leeds, then Watford. You might go, oh, shite, I need to keep hold of this. So I decided not to go against. It's worth saying, Suj, that it's kind of been, people have been dismayed that they didn't go with him for many people. But I've got a green arrow this week and don't own him. Effectively, his 15-pointer, 14-pointer was the equivalent of Ronaldo getting 2 points this week in terms of how much it would have hurt me. So even Ronaldo playing and blanking would have basically been the same result.
Yeah. Like, so I didn't buy Bruno, don't have him, and I don't care because I don't want to look at him in my team.
I get that.
Which is longer term, more what I'm interested in. I was mid story when that stupid phone rang. When we were talking about Eric Dyer. It's funny how your returnees are the same as mine in De Gea, Bowen, Antonio, Cancelo, Trent.
This was the problem. We spoke about these players.
You captained De Gea and I captained Ronaldo. So this could easily flip.
Swing, of course. Yeah, absolutely. I'm not in good shape for this double.
I bought Marcus Alonso for Eric Dyer, mate, because I just felt attack it short term.
I'm okay with that.
I bought Trossard for Son. Similar to you, I felt like Trossard could be a longer term move. I almost bought Mason Mount instead of Trossard. I would have rather bought Mason Mount, but the reason I didn't was because I was 0.1 short. So I left it and I said, right, doubling up on Chelsea. I know I've got a couple of weeks before I'm going to have to force move one of Rudiger or Alonso. And it's going to be Alonso that goes because I've got too much value in Rudiger and I'll bench him. And Trossard, in the meantime, can stay. So decided to go Trossard and Alonso. Both didn't deliver. However, looking at the 19 shots that Brighton had, it was the right choice buying Trossard, right? But I did tell you one.
Well, this is the thing, right? I take it you've seen Trossard's miss inside the first 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that hurt. Because you're thinking, I've got this really early on, actually. But just want to highlight his XG from the game, which is effectively that chance, was 0.41. Bruno Fernandes XG from the weekend was 0.59. There's not a lot in it between the two. So that could, if Trossard scores and Emi Martinez shuts his legs, it's potentially a very different result. I think the ironic thing is I discussed on Friday on one of the shows about there were things I really saw from Bruno on Monday night against Villa last week that I really liked. But my conclusion was, he's making a lot of off-the-ball runs that he's not been making because Ronaldo's not there. And of course, on Friday, it looked to everyone, Ronaldo's going to play.
Yeah.
Had I known that Ronaldo was not going to play, that's what would have made me buy Bruno Fernandes. And at that point, I probably would have captained him as well. So would have been a big difference. But no, I'm okay with the way. I don't expect to finish on a green. I've gone up to 39k currently, but I've only got 4 doublers left. Ronaldo plays could kill me. Bruno could obviously hurt again. Brighton Chelsea finishing 0-0 would be an absolute disaster for me with the amount of defensive players knocking about from that particular fixture. And obviously there's a little bit of Spurs ownership knocking about, and Leicester now as well. So I've only got 4 players left. Expect to probably finish the game week on probably on a small red, depending on if Ronaldo goes off on Wednesday night. I'm obviously in big trouble, but yeah, I'm okay with how it sits at the moment. It feels like everyone's currently probably looking to target the same team for game week 23. It feels like at the moment in a lot of cases.
Yes, and it's a certain team that play in claret and blue and not one that I support. And we'll talk about them in a second in terms of our talking points before we wrap up the games. Firstly, before we talk about the villains and
you talk about the other villains, are you?
Well, we can talk about maybe Aston Villa a little bit more as well when we talk about Villa and United's game as well. The lack of information or the lack of clarity around what's going on with postponements is a real source of frustration for a lot of people at the moment. And I can understand why, with things happening late, or for a lot of people who don't even know the rules around who is and isn't allowed to postpone games and what the process is and why, that causes any time where there's lack of information, that causes frustration for sure. There's a bit of disdain at Arsenal for requesting the game so late. I think Mika Richards was saying on Sky as well, look, they haven't done anything to break the rules. And they just followed the process. I even feel like there's certain clubs that could have requested games to be postponed that didn't, that might have been in better position to request to had their games postponed to get players back and what have you, if you know what I mean. It's a bit of a grey area now, where what do we do to get clarity moving forward? And what do we do as FPL managers? Is there anything that you can think about or comes to mind as a solution to this now?
Well, the first obvious thing from an FPL manager perspective is, as we keep saying, wait as late as possible. And this week is no different, because we could even have some fixtures added to game week 23. With each passing day, that becomes less and less likely. And I think the idea of midweek fixtures next week is probably off the table now, but the weekend is still available. And we know the weekend after is FA Cup fourth round. And I think the Premier League, if they don't schedule either Villa against Burnley or Villa against Leeds, are off their rocker, basically. Surely if a weekend is available, you schedule a game of football a couple of weeks' notice. I would have thought. Yeah. Anyway, it's part why we think a lot of people obviously looking at Villa at the moment. Arsenal bottled it, didn't they? Let's be honest.
There's going to be so many
running scared. Arsenal were running scared of
so
Japik
many
Tanganga and Ben Davis and Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. They were running scared.
Yeah, and Matt forget about it. I think regular listeners who know your allegiance know you're taking the piss.
Yeah. No, listen, Arsenal done nothing wrong. Arsenal done what Leicester did the midweek before. What others have done before that. The irony of Arsenal fans must be said, going in meltdown at the fact that Liverpool got the game postponed the other week. I think I thought Everton Leicester was going to be the tipping point, where there was a lot of anger at that postponement, because Leicester had obviously beat Watford in the cup the weekend before, and it was the one that really made bang on. Just they haven't got any worse problems from the Watford game, so why are you calling the game off them? We spoke last week about the FA Cup rules being different to the Premier League rules. I said to you, look, I think this weekend everything will go ahead. Burnley Leicester went off like really suddenly, with obviously issues at Burnley. And Burnley's one of the ones people have been going, Sean Dyche will play no matter what. Well, actually, no, that didn't happen this week. The Arsenal frustration boiled over a little bit differently. As I said to you on Tuesday's podcast, when we looked at the transfer window, I found the idea that Maitland-Niles was going to Roma on loan bizarre, when Partey was at AFCON, and they were going to leave themselves potentially really short in midfield if something happened with Xhaka. Lo and behold, Xhaka gets sent off at Liverpool in the Cup on Thursday night. They're down to no midfield players. And I think at that stage, they'd obviously give themselves a big problem, but the intention was probably still to play the game. I was really worried about the game to tell you because Tottenham are not in good shape at the moment. No Son, no Dyer, no Romero, our own problems, right, to deal with. Thinking, not sure if I fancy this. But then on Friday morning, I kind of got wind that Tierney and Saka were probably really big doubts. And at that point, I was like, let's do this. Get the game on, right? Then it was nothing all day Friday. And then about half hour before deadline, it was reported that Arsenal had finally submitted a request to the Premier League. And to be fair, part of the delay of that was Arsenal couldn't fly back from Liverpool on a Thursday night. They had to wait till Friday morning. So that's part why what caused quite a bit of delay on Friday as well. Also then meant that the Premier League then delayed their decision till Saturday morning. And I can understand when they get a final prognosis on the Arsenal players before obviously calling the game off. But Arsenal have only done what every other club would done. Listen, to be honest, if Arsenal had been coming to Tottenham full strength and Tottenham had been looking to get the game postponed, I'd have been like, yeah, fine. I'm okay with that. So now they've just exploited the Premier League rule in the same way that many other clubs have. And it's up to the Premier League to change this, because the situation is right now, until this changes, that pretty much any game could get postponed because a club's got a number of absentees. And it's worse at the moment because of AFCON, right? I mean, the fact that they're including these players who are at AFCON is a joke, isn't it? The fact that, again, it's not a blame on Arsenal, but the fact they've said, okay, you've got players at AFCON, you've got a suspended player, you've got a few injured players, one COVID case, of which there's now another one, which was announced after the Premier League game that we don't know who it is. It's farcical, isn't it? Again, it's not Arsenal's, it's the Premier League's fault for allowing it to be in place. And of course, once the Premier League's gone to Burnley on Thursday or whenever it was, and gone to Leicester on Monday, fine, you can have games off and stuff. You can't then just suddenly go, well, no, actually, you're Arsenal, you've got to play. There was a little bit of me that thought, I thought Arteta might have an arrogant attitude to it and go, wouldn't it be amazing if Arsenal turn up with 10 players short and then go and win the North London derby, and he would look like a super don to his own set of supporters? And I did think that was a possibility. No, I don't blame him. And the same is going to be true of what's coming up this weekend. So already you start looking at fixtures this weekend and going, right, what's the potential problems? So Arsenal play Burnley this weekend, and they've both just requested a game off. Now, I would think over a week, that fixture will probably be okay. A lot of people
Burnley are still playing tomorrow, remember, so we'll get a bit of an indication
as it stands
about
at time of recording. Yeah, of course. Leeds, a lot of people picking up on the Leeds team from yesterday, the fact that they had babies on the bench, etc., and didn't ask for the game to be postponed. What I don't know is I don't think Leeds have got a COVID case at the moment. And one of the rulings that the Premier League puts into the postponement request is that basically there has to be a COVID case within the squad. Right. So in spite of the amount of numbers that Leeds had missing, if they didn't have a COVID case, I don't think they had grounds to ask for a postponement. It's worth saying. Now, if Leeds pick up a COVID case this week, that brings it into doubt. They've obviously picked up more injuries yesterday in Forshaw and Firpo. I've never seen that before. 2 players get a hamstring injury in the space of 60
bizarre.
Seconds. Incredible.
Because the second one passed me by. I was so focused on the first guy's got injured, or what are they doing here?
They're both hamstring injuries as well.
And they made 2 subs at the same time. I was like, what happened? And the next guy's got injured as well. It was just both crazy.
Hamstring. But then, for example, they've got Llorente and Roberts be back from suspension next week. So that's 2 back in for 2 out. So, but you would think at the moment, Leeds Newcastle on paper would look like the one that's in most danger. But if someone suddenly drops out with 2-3 COVID cases and they've got a long list of injuries, for example, a game could go. Hopefully they need to change the rule now, but hopefully once we get beyond the weekend, then there's a kind of 2-week gap and AFCON's going to be finished by the time 24 starts. Then this nonsense can finish, because it feels like a few of the games recently, they've all got AFCON players, right? Leicester have got 4 away. Arsenal have got 3 or 4 away. Even Burnley got Maxwell Cornet away, right? So AFCON ending is certainly going to help come game week 24 from these postponement perspective. I also think that's why there's a real reluctance to arrange games for next midweek, because teams at Leicester looked to me like they just went, we didn't want you to put further games in. Fuck this Everton game off anyway. And again, I don't blame Leicester for that. But Leicester can't see the problems further ahead that I can see with the fixture schedule if they do well in the Cups.
Yeah.
And on that, there's a really interesting point, because I know someone's going to say, when's the North London derby going to be played? Arsenal's fixtures became really awkward for them. basically because of the 4 games that they have to rearrange. So the Tottenham game is obviously now owned by Sky. The Wolves game is owned by Amazon, and the 2 other games we've got to arrange are in the future but need rearranging. At Chelsea away and Liverpool at home, 2 games that the TV companies and primarily Sky are certainly going to want to show as well. Now, in terms of TV games not clashing with Europe, it only leaves us 33, 36 and 37. Now, UEFA have obviously said you can show TV games that clash with the Champions League, but I'm not sure that they're going to be happy if Sky go, yeah, while you're showing Liverpool versus Inter Milan, we're going to smash on the North London derby. You're going to get a split in viewership at that point. So I'm not sure how comfortable, if UEFA are going to have any sort of say in that sort of thing. So it might well be that although Arsenal got these games to rearrange, it might not be for a while. It's worth noting. But they've got some very good fixtures, even in spite of the couple of blanks coming up.
Yeah, they've got some very good fixtures, but imagine that as 4 fixtures for rearranging: Chelsea, Liverpool, stingy Wolves, and then your local rivals. It's like one of those where, great, they've got 4 games in hand. On you can't
be putting the 12 points on the board.
I don't want those 4 games as my 4 games in hand. I'll tell you what, that's 4 tough games that they've got. So
you're more likely to get none from them 4 than 12, aren't you? I think
exactly that.
Yeah.
It's crazy, yeah. So tricky times, as James has mentioned, yeah. Just leave it late and do the best you can with the information that you have, and see where we get to. Yeah,
we can just on Villa. As I said, I think we're probably approaching the point now where game week 23 is probably not going to have fixtures next midweek. I just say that from the perspective that when we've had them announced, they've kind of been the Friday before the weekend gone. So we've not had anything. Next midweek after game week 23 we're inside 10 days now. You can't suddenly expect if they go, Leeds v Villa, that the Villa fans are going to drop their hat on a midweek night and go to Leeds and stuff like that. It's not on. So I think next midweek's probably off the table now, which means probably the weekend and then the following midweek are also off the table. But I think most of us think that Villa will still play Burnley or Leeds on the Saturday of the FA Cup 4th round weekend. In theory, could be the Sunday as well. It's interesting to note that midweek 24, which is afterwards, Villa actually play Leeds in that midweek as well. So whether they want to schedule them against each other twice in 4 days, but Amazon might have their say, right? Because they've got the rights to the fixture. There are a couple of gaps in the TV schedule that weekend. One is there's no 5:30 game on a Saturday. These fucking idiots have put Tottenham v Brighton at 8 o'clock on ITV4. I'm not particularly happy about it. And neither should the 9,000 Brighton fans who are expected to attend for that 8 o'clock on a Saturday night. Piss takers. But I think there's a reason for the gap. And forgive me, I forget the name of the person who did point it out to me on Twitter, that Scotland play England in the Six Nations at around about that time. So that's probably why there's a gap from a TV schedule. Remember, these games are all on ITV, BBC rather than on Sky.
Yeah, I was going to say it's terrestrial TV for the rugby and Six Nations still.
I wouldn't be surprised if ITV, BBC have come to an agreement when nothing either way for the Six Nations game. But there's also a gap on 2 o'clock on the Sunday, which in theory something could fit in there. But the sensible thing to do is Villa Burnley, 3 o'clock on a Saturday. Let the fans of both teams go and enjoy the game. Nothing from a TV perspective that interferes with the FA Cup. Get on with it. I still think that will happen. There's no guarantee that it will happen this week. There's no guarantee it will happen at all. I think if it gets announced before Friday's deadline, probably needs to be half hour before the deadline so they can put it into the fixture calendar. Then I think Villa and Burnley would therefore have a double game week in 23. If it's after the deadline for the weekend, then I think they probably bring the 24 deadline forward. I would have thought.
Yeah. It makes Villa assets viable to buy regardless. They've got
great fixtures as well.
And as we'll talk about, they seem to be in a good space as a club and in a bit of good form as well. And not only that, their assets are all well priced and reasonable, so it makes them affordable for most managers as well.
One of them rare teams at the moment, actually. It's interesting. Last week, looking at United going, De Gea, Fernandes, Ronaldo, don't really, if you were free hitting, there'd be like nothing else.
Don't want to play them. It's like Wolves. You remember, you're like, I don't want to play them. Whenever they come up,
if Villa drops with a double,
right?
If Villa drops with a double, there's 4 or 5 names that you'd like want, I think. So
yeah, for sure. Let's go through some of these games. We've got 8 to wrap up, and also we will try and get to the Twitter questions because there's been a few good ones in there as well, James. I've had a scan.
Well, that's good
already. So Brighton Palace 1-1. The standard Brighton score. I mean, if you couldn't write it, by the way, you're upset about little Jacob Ramsey on your bench.
I'm not upset. It was never a debate to play.
Conor Gallagher was my first sub, to be honest with you, this week. And I was never going to... My only single game week players were Trent and Jota, Cancelo, Bowen and Antonio. There was no way that Conor Gallagher was going to play ahead of any of those. Now, you never know. Ronaldo might still be a no-show, so Conor Gallagher will come on. But I knew when Palace had scored that it was going to be Conor Gallagher. And if I'd asked you the stats without actually looking at it and told you the score, you could well have guessed that Brighton would have dominated, created loads of chances. Jack Butland's man of the match, and they didn't get over the line. I mean, what else can you say other than yes? It's so typical.
We can only really say that we've been here before and we're not surprised.
Yeah, I mean, more than once.
After Palace scored, I tweeted and went, Brighton will never beat Palace again, basically.
Yeah,
it's absurd. I feel like I've watched that game a few times in the last couple of years. I mean, Brighton in the first half particularly were great. Palace are a good team now. They're not a joke. And Brighton just completely dominated it, really, from start to finish. It's worth saying, Palace's goal was an incredible goal. Absolutely beautiful football. One of the goals of the season, actually. And Gallagher's finish is great. It's the only way he can score. So I think most people in that moment panic and put their foot through the ball. And because of his body shape, he can only go upwards. But he kind of just caresses it. He knows that because he's leaning back, he's going to end up skying it. Beautiful goal. Brilliant football. All the way played right from a direct ball into Mateta. The majority of the team involved from there on. Absolutely brilliant goal. But that was Palace's one shot on target. And I never really like scoring other than that. Brighton is same old, isn't it? We continue to be impressive but continue to be frustrated. I think Morpay's work on the equaliser was absolutely brilliant. Brilliant little turns to get away from Joel Ward. Anderson was great on the night for Palace. Was really unlucky with the own goal. Just to note, and we'll obviously get clues on Brighton tomorrow night. But obviously they play Chelsea. Dunk is close, and I wonder if that might be the tipping point that leads to a switch to a back three. So I've been going primarily with a back four over the last few weeks. Lamptey owners will be frustrated that obviously he didn't start. Have you got him, Suj?
I didn't buy him, no.
No, but no, it was obviously considered by a lot of people, and you're frustrated to only get the sub appearance, and then Chelsea, you think, oh, why did you bother? But don't rage it out. Again, have a look at Brighton's fixtures. 25 to 28 is a really good run of fixtures there. Watford, Burnley, Villa, Newcastle. Then there's a tougher run. But keep Brighton assets on side. I think even depending on how doubles might fall for them, like Neil Maupay, who's kind of been a bit of a running joke on my deadline streams this year, he should be under consideration, I think. Not now, but in a few weeks.
Yeah, after the blank.
Similar applies to Trossard. My thinking was more about what's to come, rather than the particular game week.
Yeah, I'm with you. Exactly that. It's like the Watford, Burnley, Villa, Newcastle. Okay, Villa's tough, but the Watford, Burnley, Newcastle 3 out of 4 is what he's there for now. Trossard, I can't see myself selling him before game week 29 when it's Liverpool City back to back.
And obviously they've got games to rearrange against United away and Tottenham at home, which look like two difficult games on paper, right? I bet Brighton have more of the ball in both of them fixtures.
Agreed,
yeah. So wouldn't rule them out. The Manchester United fixture could, by the way, go into game week 25 or game week 28, which I think is just about within Brighton's good run of fixtures, isn't it? It's right in the middle of that. And the Tottenham fixture could go anywhere in theory, right? So that's a really good run that I think we should keep an eye on with Brighton.
Yeah,
Palace,
sure.
The one
just
that's
on,
really
on Brighton. I mean, that Pascal Gross's penalty was possibly one of the crappiest penalties I've seen in ages.
It's one of them that if he scores, no one says nothing. Like he's put the keeper down on his arse the other way, and it doesn't matter. But it's always one of them that if you miss, it's going to look bad.
Rubbish.
And I'm not sure if he's taken one like that before. Like he's normally a reliable, just general set piece taker, isn't he? So not in a game like that, which is obviously really important to the supporters. The interesting Palace one that I think a few have got that's worth covering is Gator. And where do you go with this now? So there's a possibility that Button's going to keep his shirt, isn't it?
I mean, Vieira said post game that Butland kept him in the game and what have you. So I definitely think that there's a bit of love there between the manager and the keeper for sure. So yeah, there is a chance. I think
they have a long-standing issue, Palace, with defending set pieces. And interestingly, obviously, the penalty decision where Gross missed also was Hughes pulling someone down from a corner. Butland might be better than Gator at defending set pieces, and that might be an edge for them at the moment to play him over Gator. The fact that it's Liverpool this weekend probably gives you the excuse to look to move it on as well. Obviously, subject to what the rest of your team is. But annoyingly, the fixtures afterwards, Norwich away, Brentford away, you've got Burnley at home too after that as well. There's a few potential clean sheets for Palace in there. And obviously you could have the fixture against Watford gets thrown in potentially at any point as well after 24.
Yeah.
So a difficult one. Really nice to see Eze back, by the way, in the starting lineup. Didn't have a major impact on the game. It was a tough game for him to come into. I'm still convinced that the long-term plan with him is to drop him into a deeper position and have Zaha play ahead of him and them two really combine and then get Gallagher really combining with Elise on the right-hand side. They're building a strong team, Palace, but they'll be pleased they got out of this with a draw.
City 1, Chelsea 0. City 1. I expected them to win.
Do you know what? You're summing it up really well there, because actually this felt routine for City almost.
It's just like, City are 13 points ahead. City have won the league. I don't think, look, 1-0 could have been 2, maybe 2. I predicted a 2-0 for City. I thought that they would be they'd get another goal on the board. But Chelsea, I think, did well, but just are not as good. Simple as that. They just don't have it. Alonso had his shot and Lukaku wasn't really at the races. City are just a level above at the moment. And Chelsea, I know it's a bit stupid to talk about it now, but had we won yesterday, we'd only been 3 points behind Chelsea on the same game. So I think they are now they should be more worried about the likes of you and Arsenal over their shoulder than trying to catch anything above them in Liverpool and City now.
Chelsea shouldn't be worried about what's over their shoulder in the slightest, because they are way better than everything that's over their shoulder.
They are, but they haven't shown it. They haven't shown it in recent.
All I would say is,
weeks and months.
If they have a bad week, and I think they'll probably go to Brighton and win tomorrow night, in spite of the fact it's a difficult game, I'm fairly certain they'll beat Tottenham on Sunday. Then, as it stands, they've only got one fixture in the following 4 game weeks, which is Palace away on 26, which is a sticky fixture as well. Now, it could be that we get to a position, if Chelsea don't have, say, the Arsenal fixture added in there, that just by sheer volume of games, that suddenly Chelsea are behind on the fixtures and the others like Tottenham, West Ham and Arsenal and possibly Manchester United have caught up. But Chelsea then have an incredible run of fixtures
it's crazy
from game week 28,
March,
which is the same 5 fixtures they had from, 7 to 11 at the start of the season, where Chilwell and James were going off really mad and stuff. Same 5 fixtures: Burnley, Newcastle, Norwich, Brentford, Southampton. And then there's a 6th Leeds away as well. Brilliant run of fixtures from 28 to 33, and you should bear that in mind. Really bear that in mind. So it's interesting to know what owners of Chelsea players might do, like people like Rudiger. Do you bin it because there's too many blanks there at the moment, or do you know that you're definitely going to want some of that on the other side? And can you try and afford to bench it, which is obviously difficult with the postponement situation. But I do think it will get better after 23. So it's just got to, isn't it? Please. I can't keep calling games off, surely.
No.
Have you got any Chelsea at the moment? You've just bought Alonso, haven't you?
I bought Alonso. It was very much a short-term tour this week and next, and he can move on. Rudiger, my challenge with Rudiger is I obviously bought him pretty cheap. I bought him...
So you've got both, yeah?
I bought Rudiger at 5.6 and he's 6.2. So I may ride it out with Rudiger. I'm definitely not adding any more Chelsea to it, but also I don't think I'm adding any more Man City either. And they've got a great run in the next 3 at least. They obviously have Southampton, Brentford, Norwich, Spurs. They're going to beat you anyway. And then managerless Everton.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I could just keep going. Man United. Crystal Palace.
To be honest,
Crystal Palace, I think, is their hardest game.
The fixtures don't even matter with City. In fact, sometimes with the easy fixtures, it's worse because Champions League's restarting, and what's the rotation going to be like?
Kevin De Bruyne is, for the first time this season, more expensive than when he started at 12.1. He started the season at 12. We're talking about which midfielder to go with City and the rotation and so on. Is he stepping up now, do you think, as the one that we can potentially look at as Mr. Reliable that he was in the past?
I still don't think it's worth the money currently. He obviously had the 16-pointer against Leeds in the heavy winning game week 17. Nothing in the 4-0 win at Newcastle. 1 goal in then a 6-3 win against Leicester. He assisted Foden at Brentford and returned an 8-pointer. Nothing at Arsenal, and then an 11-pointer with the goal on Saturday. But he really is big game Kev, isn't he? Of all the players in this league, I think when there's a big game, Kevin De Bruyne will step up and do the business. And he's never won. If he was in your FPL team, I never would have looked at it and gone, that's Chelsea, I've been him. He's got a good record against all the big clubs. He really shows up in them so often. And it's such a typical De Bruyne goal. What a beautiful pass by Cancelo as well.
Yep.
Like the weight of it is so perfect that it allows De Bruyne to have the body shape and movement without touching the ball to glide away from Kante. He holds off Kante's challenge, and then the finish is great. Interestingly, Kepa, I think, has been playing really well for Chelsea, actually, when he has played generally this season as well, not just this little period. But it's the old one again, isn't it? Long range goals beat him. And he takes a step to his right. I'm not quite sure why he does it, but it doesn't go right in the corner. And I think Ederson, Alisson, the other top goalkeepers saved it. Like Mendy saves that, I think. I don't think he gambles as much. He struggles with something from long range distances. And it probably is related to his footwork in some way where he's not setting himself properly. But actually, he's done really well when he's played on the whole. Chelsea's problem in this game was attacking, right? Yeah. They had a few situations where the three could really break kind of 3-on-4 and stuff. And either played the final pass or didn't play the final pass early enough. The front three didn't play well. That includes Lukaku. I know there were a number of times that he should have been fed in, but it was the one he tried to feed in for Ziyech himself. I can't believe he doesn't shoot. And his second touch was often a tackle, particularly in the first half of the game. I know what he was trying to do with Ziyech Pulisic was cause City problems in the pockets in between the centre-backs and the wide midfielders. They just didn't make enough of it. Pulisic ended up staying really wide. I think that was to try and cause some problems for Cancelo, but he just allowed Cancelo to do his normal thing, go into inverted roles and play playmaking roles. And to flip that, City's front three were really good. All of them, Grealish, Foden, Sterling. Sterling's in good form at the moment. I think I'd go Sterling over De Bruyne, actually, if I was forced to buy one of them two at the moment, Suj. But it's for me, it's too much money for the two of them. Even though I've got excess money and I could do it, not really of interest. And I'm very cautious like you. Yeah, these next three fixtures, and you don't even need to say next three, the next fixtures are very, very good. But I think the City player I'd be considering most right now is Laporte to add to Cancelo. Yeah. And just understand that those attacking boys, they're going to just keep flipping their returns. You've got Riyad Mahrez will be back for game week 24, game week 25. Does he come back into the team suddenly out of nowhere? Jesus, we've seen get plenty of minutes this season. I think Foden is the outstanding one. From the value perspective, the whole package, he would be the one. But I'm more likely to, I think, in the coming weeks, go double City. And the problem is,
defensive.
I'm not sure as and when that's going to happen because of if Villa do get that double, I'm not buying City this way. I'm buying Villa.
Yeah.
That's what most of us will be doing. And it's going to be same 24. You say, okay, there's no doubles in 24. Yeah, but there's another priority in 24, isn't it? It's getting Mo Salah back. So where that -4 for a Laporte is ever worth it, and that's what it would be, I'm not convinced. So for me, I might just be sticking with Cancelo throughout here.
Newcastle won, Watford won. I saw a stat after this game. Newcastle have dropped 21 points this season from winning positions. I
think they scored first in nearly half the games.
They would have the same number of points as you had they not dropped any of those points. 33, which is incredible, isn't it, to think about? So you can sense the frustration from the fans where they're just they go ahead, it gives you a hope, and then it gets sucked away. We all got tied up with this King versus Dennis debate, and it's João Pedro that steps up and puts that to bed. Quite unfortunately, with the points this week, I don't think it's wrong to still go with one of those two. João Pedro could lose his pace very easily, whereas I don't think the other two are likely to. Frustration from Newcastle fans. It's not frustration. It's almost rage. I think it's actually worse than frustration. It's a bit of like, this is getting stupid now. Sort it out. Watford, on the other hand, would have probably wanted to go there and at least take the game to Newcastle a little more and go for 3 points, but maybe didn't get enough of a foothold in the game.
The pressure on these next 3 Newcastle games. Leeds away, Everton at home, Villa at home. And suddenly Everton at home and Villa at home might not be as easy as they looked. Villa, I think we're looking at now going, you're potentially building something there. And Everton might be a reborn animal under a different manager. It's difficult to say, right? The pressure
and Leeds this weekend is going to be like if Leeds. So I mean, when we get to West Ham, Leeds were back to Leeds, right, with the energy that I hadn't seen for so long. If they play with that energy against Newcastle, they're going to get no rest at all.
No, I mean, if Leeds played like they looked more like Leeds yesterday, didn't they?
Exactly.
Then Newcastle won't get anything at Leeds at the weekend. Suddenly they put themselves in real trouble because they're running. The less fixtures they have, the worse the running looks. And that's worth saying. They had a really difficult end of fixtures last season and performed very well, actually. Remember the win against yourselves, the win at Leicester, draw against Tottenham. They had some good results. Draw at Liverpool as well. But they're putting pressure on themselves. It's all right. And I've seen a lot of Newcastle fans saying we can't hold on to a lead. The big problem in this game is you had one shot on target against a team that hasn't kept a clean sheet all season. And that one shot on target obviously found the net from St. Maximin. That's a big problem. That's concerning. One shot on target at home to Watford when you are desperate to win is a worry. St. Maximin, obviously brilliant goal, but frustrates. Wood is obviously, I think, missing confidence from his Burnley spell. Didn't show anything at the weekend other than some very good hold-up play. There wasn't a moment where he looked like he was going to score. I watched all this game back on Saturday night. Really impressed with Joel Linton again, by the way. There were some signings from Watford I was quite impressed with. They had 3 debutants. The left-back, Kamara, I thought was really good, actually. And that's worth noting because it's been a real problem position for Watford. They also played Samir at centre-back and had a new midfielder who kind of sat in front of the 4 called Kayembe. I don't know a lot about these players, but they all did absolutely fine. Really liked Kamara at left-back. And that might give them a little bit more solidity than what they've had. You've suddenly put 3 new players in there who, admittedly, none of us know a lot about. And it's just a little bit of caution on that. There's a few games coming up, like obviously you play them in a few weeks, Suj, West Ham. United played them in 27, which there's this growing idea of sort of free hitting in that week now. That just be conscious that actually, from what I saw in the Tottenham game where they went a lot deeper, and what I watched on Saturday night with the new signings, and obviously restricting Newcastle 1 shot on target, they might be getting a bit better defensively. So bear that in mind. No one's saying by a Watford defender, by the way. Talking of which, Ben Foster obviously back in goal, which depending on whether you're on the Foster or the backman side is either really good news or annoying. But I think it's fairly clear to see that Foster is now first choice. Interestingly, Suj, if you had Foster and De Gea, who would you play this weekend?
Oh, great question.
Because someone's got to be in that position, surely.
I'd play Foster.
So Watford have Norwich at home this coming week, and United have West Ham at home.
Yep. I'd play Foster.
The one time I went against it, it bit me bad. So I went Foster, I think it was home to Newcastle, actually. Yes, it would have been. And Wolves played at Southampton. And Jose Sarr got like a 15-pointer or so, didn't it? 12 to 15-pointer.
Yeah.
Foster got nothing. It was the only time I changed it. And you know it's sod's law when you change it. And the thing is, I'd look at it and go, what's the ceiling for Foster against Norwich? 7 points?
7, 8 points, yeah.
Needs a penalty save, really, right? And they haven't kept a clean sheet all season. Norwich looked better at the weekend. We'll speak about them in a bit. Whereas with De Gea, you've seen that again at the weekend. He's conceded 2 and he's got 4 points. I think I'd play De Gea still.
That's a segue, James. We'll talk about Norwich in a bit. We'll just talk about Norwich now.
Just quick, João Pedro, right. That was the right answer. between Dennis King and João Pedro, because they changed position quite a bit, but primarily João Pedro played through the middle, Dennis played right, and Josh King played left. They had particular spells where Dennis would go to the left, and they also had spells where King and João Pedro would swap. But primarily, like if you look at heat maps, you'll see all three of them quite central, and that's because they rotated quite a lot. Primarily, it was João Pedro through the middle. Now, you can't be the hindsight merchant because I didn't even have him in my predicted Watford team for the weekend. If you were punting this week for 1 week, though, it's possibly him, but I wouldn't recommend doing that.
Nah. And Norwich 2, Everton 1. I mean, Everton fans will be fuming. There might be a few people with Michael Keane left lingering around because of the double game week situation. So
good afternoon, because I know he always listens. Tom Cantwell from Who Got the Assist. I love you,
buddy. Good commiserations to anybody in that boat. And credit to you for calling this. I didn't think that Norwich had the goals in them.
I actually bottled it. I said to you, if you'd asked me early in the week, I'd have said Norwich win. I ended up going with a draw in the end because Everton had a few returnees.
But I think is it a case of Everton are really bad? Because if you now look at the bottom of the table, the bottom four in terms of Watford, Norwich, Newcastle, Burnley, there's still a 5-point gap. And now we're getting into the situation of games in hand and all, whatever, is a bit of a pain. But Everton are the most likely of anyone to maybe get sucked in now, although a new manager might be on the way and that will change things. They might get a new manager bounce. Definitely got the squad and the attacking power, Richarlison and Dominic Calvert-Lewin, to score their way out of it. But I mean, in a strange way, with the size of club and the resources, I was happy for Norwich. I was like, you know what? Good on you. Go and get the points. And
I think everyone, bar probably Ipswich fans, is quite happy when Norwich win a game at the moment. I mean, it's ironic that every week
or score a goal, mate. Forget win a game. If they score a goal,
they're 18th, and we've all decided that they're already down. On Everton, just want to say, obviously, Benitez was confirmed as sacked last night. The People's Poll vote is out now, and it looks like Everton is going to win the vote. So we're going to kind of do a whole piece on Everton tomorrow. Hopefully, I'll be able to get Spirit Blues, Sean Norton on to join me to do that if that's the case as well. I'll talk about the other options in the vote later on. So I just want to talk about Everton from an FPL perspective very briefly. So there will be people like Tom who's got Michael Keane. There are people like myself who've got Calvert-Lewin. Don't rage it out. It's frustrating because it looked like it was going to be double-double. It looked like there might even be another double coming in 23. That doesn't look like it's going to happen. But there are still some good fixtures here. Villa, Newcastle, Leeds. If Ferguson does the job temporarily, particularly in Calvert-Lewin's case, I think that would be really good for Calvert-Lewin. And obviously, Richarlison returned and scored a spectacular overhead during the game at the weekend as well. So I wouldn't rage out Calvert-Lewin. Michael Keane, I think, is one where if Villa get a double, the movement towards Dean or Cash will look like the sort of thing that you want to do. But the manager's gone. They might have an upturn really suddenly. So just people got Damari Gray as well. Just be cautious. I'm not saying don't move them on, but they might have a small upturn quite quickly. Supposedly most of the players didn't like Benitez, it sounds like. For Norwich, there's a player that I really, really want to highlight. And I spoke about him after Tottenham played them in the early December period. That's Adam Idam.
Goal scorer. And to be honest with you, when he against us, he was good. He was their most standout player.
He gives them, it feels like, a little bit of presence and power. He's good in behind running. I think we've seen in so many games this season, Pukki look isolated, and he looks like a proper partner, although clearly was dropping into kind of number 10 positions at the weekend. And he needs to stay in the team. And I'd be cautious of him because it's 4.9. And that's going to be kind of cheapest interest in forward at 5 million plus. No one is saying go and buy the Norwich 4.9 million forward. No. But there might be a point in the season, keep him in mind, would have a couple of fixtures together and they're desperate, or in a blank game week or something like that, where he might be an option for you. Norwich in game week 30, by the way, scheduled Chelsea at home, so that doesn't particularly work. But I'd keep him on side and on mine. Norwich had some good performers in this fixture. So the fullbacks played well, Williams and Aarons, but they may have both picked up injuries during that game, it's worth saying. Sorensen and Lee Mello as a partnership in midfield worked. It felt like finally they'd landed on something. And I think this is the team Norwich will go with for a little while. We can't judge in terms of if it's the start of a potential turn for them because Everton are that bad at the moment. But a big win, they needed it. Watford Palace next. Imagine they win them too. The problem is they don't, then it's City Liverpool afterwards, and you're back to square root one, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
But they've got a chance. It wouldn't be the first team where everyone's gone for the first 5-6 months of the season. They're down, and get out of it. Plus, it's beginning to look like if you look at the teams down there, I think it's becoming conceivable that this will sound big. 30 points might be enough.
Yep.
Because none of them can put the wins together. You got Everton on a point per game, and they're 16th. They're like 6 points clear.
When you say it's inconceivable, everybody bar Burnley's played more than half their games, and their points
I'm saying it's not inconceivable that it could be that low. 11,
12, 13, 14 for the bottom three. So double that, you're talking 22, 24, 26, 28. So that's exactly what you're saying. 30 could even be plenty.
I don't think it will be that low because I think what you'll find, there'll be a period in sort of April where they all start winning together just randomly. And it'll probably go up to sort of 34, 35 points. But if it is to be only 30 points or so, then they've all got a chance. You're talking about whichever one of them can win 5 games between now and the end. And Norwich have got fixtures, particularly at home. I've still got to play Palace at home, Brentford at home, Burnley at home, Newcastle at home. There are some winnable fixtures, particularly in the home games.
That Burnley, Newcastle, I mean, relegation 6-pointers, call them what they are.
Do you know that Newcastle scheduled to go to Burnley in 38?
That's going to be a game.
With Chris Wood and Tarkowski in the Newcastle team. Apparently, they are going to step up their efforts for Tarkowski again, is what I've heard.
Wolves 3, Southampton 1. I mean, to be honest with you, I thought this might end up a draw because Southampton had been in a bit better form. Not only that, they'd been scoring goals recently, but Wolves have been in good form themselves, being stingy at the back. I was surprised to see them score 3 goals when the goal alerts had come up. I was like, this is not Wolves scoring 3 in a game. Tell me what I need to do with Wolves here, James, because I want someone. I really do. I want him to sit there as a tick-along asset that stays in the team each and every week, that gets me points consistently without ever going off big. And I don't want to spend a lot of money on him either. Where do we go? Max Kilman, Ait-Nouri. I'm gravitating defensively, if I'm honest with you.
Which is, listen, the Wolves attacking players don't appeal to me whatsoever. They've conceded, Suj, since losing at Palace in game week 11, 3 goals.
Great. Love it.
And consider they had that really tough spell in there with yourselves, City, Liverpool, Chelsea. So the only goals they've conceded since game week 11 were a dodgy penalty at the Etihad, last-minute goal to Divock Origi, Liverpool, and James Ward-Prowse's obscene free kick from the weekend. That's it. So, look, we got to really start taking them seriously to the point where you go, okay, do you know what? Them fixtures don't overly appeal. Brentford away at the weekend is fine. Then Arsenal, Tottenham, Leicester, West Ham looks like a difficult 4. But actually, some of the prices of these players and what they've shown to us defensively, actually, we've been too quiet on this for too long. And it's the fixtures that ironically have put us all off. The fact they've only conceded 3 goals in like 10 game weeks, and I know there's a few postponements in there, that's unbelievable for any team. So I looked back at points since that Palace defeat, which then started with a victory against yourselves in game week 12. Jose Sarr, most points. Not unsurprisingly, is the keeper with the bonus that can come with that, but not by a lot over Connor Cody. And it's only about 6 points back to Max Kilman as well. And Ait-Nouri now is beginning to look a great player. What price is he? Like 4.3. Ait-Nouri.
Ait-Nouri is now 4.3. Yes, only selected by 0.7% of teams. I mean, he did miss 3 games on the bounce, but obviously got his place back. Yeah. Is it injury that's kept?
He's first choice now.
Yeah, you think so?
The one note of caution, this would be kind of beyond a lot of people at the moment, is Johnny has resumed training And I'd be a little bit cautious of that as well, because Johnny's been very good for Wolves over a number of years now.
Yeah, he's been very good for me in FPL as well, to be honest with
you. He'll potentially come back and put some pressure on, not in the next couple of weeks, but I think if you buy Aït-Nouri, you're looking ahead now going, okay, there's some difficult fixtures. Game week 28 to 32 looks absolutely brilliant. We've got a couple of fixtures to rearrange with Arsenal and Watford. The Watford double could drop in just about anywhere, actually. So I think Aït-Nouri appeals, but certainly from an offensive perspective as well. But there might be something when you really, really want him in a few weeks that comes back and bites in the shape of Johnny. I don't know what Bradley Parker's opinion and other Wolves fans are on in terms of if Johnny can threaten that place in sort of 5-6 game weeks. For sheer absolute security of definitely going to play, Cody and Kilman are absolute locks. Max Kilman gets better every time I see him. Got real good reviews for his performance at the weekend, which obviously included a goal as well. And obviously it was, it was Cody's goal, wasn't it? Kilman's original header, Fraser Forster. I don't know what you're doing. Southampton goalkeeping problems. We've been here before. So attacking returns for both the defensive players was 2 assists for Aït-Nouri as well. And do you know what Sarr returned at the weekend, Suj?
I mean, he got 9 saves and 2 bonus points as well.
7-pointer.
So it's incredible. With no clean sheet, let's add. Imagine if he'd kept a clean sheet. That could easily have been 12 points there.
Interestingly on Sarr, though, that one feels like a little bit of an unusual one, because since the 8 and the 10s against West Ham and Norwich in game week 12 and 13, the returns have been 6-3, 4, 6, 6, 5, 7. Doesn't suggest that kind of big, massive haul is actually there. And they should have lost that fixture at Norwich when he got the 10-pointer.
But goalkeepers don't haul, do
they?
They haul once in a while. Goalkeepers, if you gave me 6 points from my goalkeeper for 2/3 of the season and 2s and 3s the rest, I'll take it.
But then isn't it the same as just going and buying Cody or Kilman?
Yeah. I think for sometimes it's like there's some great goalkeeping options, but the defenders are just better value. For me, sitting there with like a Ben Johnson, who clearly isn't going to keep his place or come back into the team now, that little stretch to Aït-Nouri or Kilman makes much, much more sense. And I'd rather, as much as I've slated him, I'd rather have Aït-Nouri in my squad right now than Ben Johnson. There, I said it.
I would always prefer, where possible, to go and buy the offensive player. I don't think for many, Wolves is going to be in consideration this week. However, Suj, if there is no Villa announcement before the weekend, I might go there, because I've got Diop and Dalot that are problems. So a Wolves player might be what I look at. And in me, I can't help that I'd want to look at Aït-Nouri and go, you look a far better prospect than Cody or Kilman. And that's the way I want to go. And it might be what I do. But they're all under consideration for this weekend. I think Cody, Kilman, very reasonable. Cody will have been sitting in a lot of teams very quietly throughout this period and been doing very well for people. He's probably been sitting on a lot of benches quite regularly, doing very well as well. I wouldn't be, because of how they're performing defensively now, I wouldn't even be that put off by their fixtures. I think you're almost at the stage where you want to play their defensive players in almost any fixture is how it's getting now. Yeah, really strong prospects. Offensively, still no interest though.
I love it that you've got a Diop-shaped problem. I've got a Diop-shaped problem and I don't even own him in FPL, and we're going to get to that in a minute.
Before we jump on, can I just say about Ward-Prowse's free kicks? A lot's been obviously made of it. What I love about it is when you reflect on everything we've always said about him, that he does the same thing every free kick and you still can't stop it. He goes over the wall. That's
exactly what I was going to say.
Every time.
Yeah. Him and Trent. You know what they're going to do. You just can't do anything about it.
But this time he's changed his technique massively. He's gone with the knuckleball. And so when Jose Sarr, unlike comparing to, say, Kepa, when Jose Sarr starts going behind his wall, I'm thinking, well, that's what he does every single time anyway. So if you want to get there, you've got to start going because he's so accurate. So when he just literally fires it to the other corner, I think goalie's got absolutely no chance. Did you see his interview afterwards where he said, yeah, I tried a few like that this week. Fucking hell, mate. Weldy, mate. Yeah. He'll end up taking Beckham's record as highest scoring free kick taker. Shout out to my people upstairs at Tottenham as well. Like, I need a midfielder, and he's good, James Ward-Prowse.
Remind me, James.
Sorry, Saints fans.
Forget it, James. He signed a new contract earlier this season, didn't he? In the summer, he signed recently. I don't know. He's going to.
Contracts ain't worth nothing. You know that.
No, but it's going to mean that it's going to cost a lot to get him, and you know how tight your board are.
By the way,
I spend a lot of money
exactly,
now,
so. And I'll also answer the elephant in the room where people are going, "Why would James Ward-Prowse go to Tottenham?" And I agree. I agree. I think James Ward-Prowse could play for one of the title challengers in this. I think he's seriously underrated as a footballer. Is kind of the point I'm making. Interesting that Teller kept his place at wing back. I'm not sure if that will stick. I did think Kyle Walker-Peters would come back in. They have some difficult fixtures next few. City at home, Tottenham away, United away. There are definitely players who I think you can dip off of Bruyne and then go back to. Worth noting again, they've got a good run of fixtures starting in game at 26, Southampton.
Aston Villa 2, Manchester United 2. We definitely got to talk about this game, obviously, for so many stories and reasons within it. Bruno Fernandes being one, Coutinho coming off the bench, and he's now obviously in FPL at 7 million, which is a competitive price point. When you puts you in the brackets of Madison's in the world and all of the City assets that we have and what have you. And he looked so happy at the end of the game. Not only that, I didn't really put two and two together, but obviously him and Gerrard were teammates, right? So they must have a really good relationship off the pitch as well that will give Coutinho confidence. Jacob Ramsey over Billy Gilmour on wildcard when you played yours and I played mine seems like a masterstroke. I'll be honest with you, I didn't think that he would get the minutes and consistency that he has, but I think there's a certain amount of trust in him as well. I mean, even the post-match interview that Steven Gerrard did, he was asked about Ramsey. He said that he wasn't good enough in the first half, told him so at halftime.
I agree with that, by the way.
And he delivered in the second half. So I think there's a bit of trust building there, with the youngster as well. For me, from a Villa point of view, Gilmour to Ramsey is such a easy no-brainer for me. Luca Dean at left back is a consideration. Coutinho is a consideration. Ollie Watkins for Antonio or Cristiano Ronaldo is a consideration as well. Manchester United, I couldn't care less about anybody really.
Let's come back to United because I think there's an awful lot to unpick from this game. A really enjoyable watch, actually. Let's start with Villa because I think there are so many assets that potentially should be of interest to FPL managers, even if the double doesn't drop this week, because Everton, Leeds, Newcastle, Watford, Brighton, Southampton are their fixtures up to game week 28. And for those who are not planning to use a free hit in game week 30, we do know that they will at least play against Arsenal in game week 30. But I want to run through all the players of interest because there are loads. Martinez.
Always consistent.
Now, I know he's thrown one in, but we know that he's capable of a haul. And I think for those who suddenly have got sort of the Gator problem and stuff, if the Villa double drops and you're sitting there with like Gator and Backman, and someone listening to this will be, that's where you're going to want to go, isn't it? So it'll be of consideration for some. Cash, 5.1 right back. Luca Dean, 5 million left back. I think as Dean's gone straight in, you go Dean at this stage, don't you? I think between the two.
Well, I think the thing is, if you're fearful of rotation, then you go neither. Like if you'd said to me, Luca Dean is first choice and he's going to play all the games, I would say, okay, it makes logical sense. He's a French international left back. His set piece delivery and what have you is fantastic. But then it feels incredibly harsh on Matt Targett, who hasn't done anything wrong and doesn't deserve to lose his place.
But Luca Dean's an upgrade.
Ruthless. It is. Yeah. And Steven Gerrard, I think, will be ruthless. But the fear of rotation between the two of them, because Matt Targett isn't
I would never
know. You don't think so? So no. if you're in the James camp, which is that you think Luca Dean will play and is in there, then I think, Luca Dean is definitely
I think the fact that he's gone straight in is the giveaway, because he could have comfortably played Targett and said, look, this is your opportunity to keep the shirt, wherever. He's gone, he's put Dean straight in. Didn't need to do that. I think Luca Dean, that's a giveaway, mate. 5
million in a better team, I think Luca Dean is fantastic value.
Yep. Also, keep an eye out for Courtney Hawes, 4.4, who obviously came on for Konsa, who could barely move at the end of the first half and looked like he picked up a hip problem. Now, at the moment, Konsa's only yellow flag, but keep an eye on that news, because again, if you're struggling for budget potentially, it might be that Hawes might get a run in these really good upcoming fixtures over the next couple of months if the Konsa problem's really bad. And he's a threat from set pieces. Going forward, Ramsey, 4.6, very soon be 4.7. You mentioned about going Ramsey over, say, Gilmore. Perhaps the right answer was to go with both, because Ramsey's starting to get to a level where if Ramsey was 6 million, he'd be more starting teams than he's psychological. You know that. He's psychological that he's the fifth midfielder. I don't need to start him. And I'm beginning to look at it and go, Jesus, this guy is such a good enabler. Should I be looking? Should I be looking at another midfielder at a similar value to Ramsey, so I can just start him every week?
Well, what week did Stevie G come in to Villa? Do you remember?
What fixture? I think it was game week 12. I want to say from memory, Brighton at home. Yeah, game week 12.
So he started every game bar one, which was the Manchester City game.
And he had
Ramsey, Jacob Ramsey, and he started all of them.
Yeah.
So there we go. I mean, I still feel nervous with I don't know why, but I still feel nervous with a 4.5 million midfielder. Will he play week in, week out? But the stats are there. So yeah, Jacob Ramsey's there. He does come off 60, 70 minutes reasonably regularly, but he's also a packet of peanuts, mate.
But it enables, doesn't it? It enables. If you've got a starting player at that price every week, the 2 points is fine if it's enabling you super quality in the rest of your squad, and anything on top of that is the bonus. Exactly that. So, I mean, I was kind of working towards moving Ramsey to Salah, actually, because I've got so much in the bank, and then having a much stronger team in game week 24. But I'm now wondering if I ever need or want to do that, particularly with the fixtures that Villa have got. I could start him in all of them fixtures. Now, admittedly, in this run, he's only returned in 2 games, right? Which reality is Norwich and Manchester United, 2 of the worst defences in the league. Sorry, United fans, but look at the amount of goals you conceded compared to people at the bottom of the league. So is he going to return often? No, but I think he now gets that sense of responsibility. I spoke on one of the pods last week about he looks like he belongs. He doesn't look like a young player playing in this team. He's got everything about him in terms of the physical attributes to suggest that he's ready to go. Love him as a little footballer. Was involved in obviously both the goals. When he gets in, he finishes it really well for the first. Super cross for Coutinho's equaliser. Coutinho. You're right, 7 million. Good. I'm going to have a look for the advanced tier patrons later on this week in terms of the end of the game and where I think he might end up playing in future games, because we shouldn't overly judge and look at the weekend and go, oh my God, he's definitely going to play really high up the pitch, etc. Like I've seen people posting heat maps where Coutinho's higher than every other player. Well, yeah, of course, Villa didn't kick the ball for the first half hour. And when Coutinho was on the pitch, United didn't kick the ball. So, of course, he's going to be higher position.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't play. He hardly played any minutes at the moment. So you can't judge someone's heat map on 22 minutes of football.
No, you definitely can't. You can judge what you saw in terms of what the uplift that he gave his teammates. One key point on Coutinho, price will be locked till Thursday. There's no rush. There's no rush to go and buy him. You may find that his price might not even go up before deadline. There's literally no rush to get him in at all. Up front, Ollie Watkins.
Yep.
Definite interest as well, mate.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I think Antonio to Watkins my most likely move this week, I think.
Yeah, you know what? Antonio to Watkins is very much on the cards for me. But then I look at it and I'd rather actually almost move Ronaldo to Watkins longer term. Like, we talk about Manchester United.
But then you should consider that, because what's your route back to Salah?
Well, money's no problem for me right now.
Okay,
but Ronaldo to Watkins longer term, and then plowing the money into my midfield and defence, I'd rather do. Antonio, again, he was huffing and puffing a bit yesterday. It was a difficult game, don't get me wrong. Hasn't been on great form, and people are still moaning about how he hasn't returned like he did in the first 40. He's such a high scoring forward in the game, mate. So I feel like keeping Antonio and moving on Ronaldo would potentially be better, because do you think, this is a kind of segue, do you think United were better because Ronaldo wasn't there? And do you think Bruno was better because Ronaldo wasn't there? And that's not to say Manchester United without Ronaldo are better than Manchester United with, but did his absence allow them to do things that his presence does not?
I think Bruno, yes. Although he didn't make the runs on Saturday that he made in the cup game on the Monday before to quite the same extent. And obviously, that again, well done to those who've gone with him. Right, cool. But the reality is, Martinez has thrown one in for him, and the second one comes from a high turnover, which is actually it's good pressing from United as a collective unit, but it's a bad error, and Fred puts him in, and he's arriving at the right time. And I think in that particular circumstance of the second goal, he's arriving into that space at that time, if Ronaldo's on the pitch or not. The only thing might be, this is going to sound ridiculous, but Cavani's awareness actually makes sure that the space is there and open for Fernandes. Ronaldo might go to the ball. That's the only thing. It's easy to have the narrative of look at the first half hour. And then basically from the moment I tweeted, this is the best I've seen of United this season, Villa were a better side. Mm-hmm. First half hour, United were great. And it's easy to look at no Ronaldo and come to that narrative. And I don't particularly disagree with it. But also, no Wan-Bissaka, no Harry Maguire, no Luke Shaw, no Scott McTominay, no Marcus Rashford, no Jadon Sancho, no Anthony Martial. There were other players were missing from this team other than just Ronaldo, right? I think what really helped was I thought the two wide players were excellent. Elanga and Mason Greenwood. It was the best I've seen of Mason Greenwood for ages. And Elanga was really good and direct. He gave Matty Cash problems. He's like 4.8 in FPL, actually, but you can't go there because you don't know if he's going to keep his place or anything. If he did, it'd become interesting, actually, at that price. Greenwood was really good. Cavani is such a spatially aware, very clever forward, which I think, yes, does help Fernandes. I thought Matic was okay, particularly in that first half hour. I thought he protected really nicely, but then they seemed to get overwhelmed really late in the game. The reality is, it doesn't matter what Manchester United do with that position. They'll find a short-term fix one week. It will be their problem the next week. Defensively, were they better off for Maguire not playing? Is possibly just as interesting conversation. But then I think you'd think with his leadership and experience towards the end of the game, they might not have buckled in the way that they did, because when Ramsey scored, it didn't feel like a consolation. It felt like Villa are going to go and batter these for 15 minutes. Can they score? And when it went 2-2 within a couple of minutes, I'm watching the game thinking, go and get the third. You can win this now. You can really win it. So really difficult to make direct conclusions on United in terms of just Ronaldo with and without. I think for Bruno specifically, yes, there might be something in it in terms of off the ball, particularly. But the reality is, if Ronaldo is fit for Wednesday night, he will play. So it's almost an immaterial argument.
I do think,
yeah, of course, you would
as well.
Listen, it's Ronaldo. You would expect him to score in any game.
Yeah.
So, and that's the one that really hurt. Like, as I said to you, if Ronaldo gets a 6-pointer on Wednesday night, it's going to hurt my rank more than Bruno Fernandes 14 did at the weekend, not massively more.
And they're playing Brentford. So it's a segue into the two games we've got left to talk about: Liverpool 3, Brentford 0. And wow, we've been talking, James. I still wanted to get to some Twitter questions. It's an hour and 15.
I don't know why you go wow every week, because the same thing happens.
The same thing happens. Yeah, for sure. Liverpool 3, Brentford 0. Didn't watch it, obviously being at the London Stadium, but seems fairly routine. All I can take from this is, Trent returned. Liverpool coped without Salah and Mane. And regardless, I don't have the money to get Robertson. So as much as he's now back on the radar, can't afford him and don't see myself doubling up. It's like that Trent, Salah, Jota is probably worth more than Trent, Robertson, Salah as a Liverpool trio. Any thoughts on that?
You're killing yourself going with Robertson. And there'll be people now who've got Trent, Robertson, Jota, and it's absolutely fine. And it's brilliant for this week. Then you've got the decision to make. What do you do? Are you sacrificing Jota ahead of a period that's Leicester at home, Burnley away, Norwich at home, and many of us think that could be a double ahead of a blank? Is Jota expendable now Firmino's fit? I think selling him would be ridiculous at this moment. I really, really do.
Yeah.
He'll get minutes. There's games now clearly where Firmino's back, and the other two are obviously going to come back for 24, where he's not going to play every game. We've got Champions League coming up as well. What's to say Jota's not ahead of Firmino now? None of us actually know that.
No.
None of us actually know what Jurgen Klopp's thinking in terms of, is Jota now ahead of Firmino? And he might be. And of course, having all four of them available, you can use Jota in wide areas, etc. Yesterday, Jota hit the post. This is despite playing in a wider position. He hit the post and he missed the one-on-one, which was actually a really good save by Alvaro Fernandes. On a different day, he's got a 15-pointer and it's not a conversation. So I can't get Robertson, and that's where, like many, I'd love to go and get Andrew Robertson. He's in great form at the moment. The returns are coming, but it just doesn't work.
No.
It doesn't work.
Yeah.
For me, it's Trent,
Agreed.
Jota, Salah.
Yeah.
So if people want to go a different way, it's fine. If someone says to me, no, I want to go Trent, Robertson and Salah, I'm absolutely cool with that. The problem is there's a decision to make, and I wouldn't want to give myself that decision. I'm so far up in value with Jota as well, because I've had him basically all season. So they've got really good fixtures. It might be one to look back on come 28. I think once we got more clarity, perhaps, on Jota's positioning within the first choice Liverpool team, where perhaps, okay, might want to look away and we'll go double defensive instead. But I just don't think it works for many. Robertson's ownership tells you the story, right?
Yeah, exactly that.
And he's
Brentford,
a great asset. You just can't have four of them. Is the bottom line.
Brentford don't appeal from an FPL point of view. I think just as a mention, by getting to 23 points already, despite the difficult run that they've got in the next 5, they've done their hard work in terms of survival and what have you. I don't feel like they're in any way, shape or form needing to look over their shoulder and worry about getting sucked in, because they'll pick up the odd win every now and then. And they've done the hard work that they needed to do so far this season.
I think we know, and we can recognise now that whoever goes to Brentford specifically in away games, like including United this week, they're going to have a game. They're going to. No one's going to Brentford and winning 3-4-0. We don't think. So I think that I can see United winning 1-0 or 2-1 on Wednesday night if they get their setup right. If they're not right mentally, they get beat at Brentford, by the way.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. I think they'll be all right. They'll definitely get enough in home fixtures. I think they have a goal scoring issue at the moment.
Ivan Toney's just not been the player we thought he might be with the step up to the Premier League.
Well, he's another one. There's so many players, and he falls into the category where he's had COVID and stuff, and we don't really know what the impact is. I mean, look, he's on 62 points from basically half the season or so. What were our expectations for him? Yeah, maybe 130 to 150 points. So I don't feel like he's miles off that. He wouldn't be under consideration at the moment. No. Wolves next, Man City away afterwards. There's nothing to speak of here with Brentford. But I like you. I feel like they're going to be all right. They're going to get enough results at home. Losing 3-0 at Liverpool can happen. They had an issue yesterday dealing with set pieces. I don't know how far David Raya is from coming back, but getting him back in goal would definitely be helpful. I feel like they're a side that you can definitely target for clean sheet potential at the moment, which, I mean, coming back to Wolves, although it's Brentford away at the weekend, you do look at it and think, could be another one for Wolves, couldn't it?
West Ham 2, Leeds 3. Did you watch the Liverpool game then, knowing that I'd be at West Ham, or did you actually do a bit of flickery pokery?
No, I watched all your game, mate.
Lovely.
To be honest, it wasn't a lot I felt I could learn from Liverpool Brentford, and I hadn't watched you for quite a while, so I took the opportunity to do so. Plus, like many, I just enjoy watching Leeds anyway, so I watched your game.
When Leeds are Leeds, they're definitely enjoyable. And even, to be honest with you, as a fan in the ground, I mean, it was a very enjoyable game to be at.
Your camera's like the cameraman at the Etihad, by the way.
Oh, is it? It's just shaking.
I meant to say that. The cameraman at the Etihad, what was it, a 10-year-old? Did anybody else notice this? And I realised no one can answer. Did you notice it?
Nah.
The main camera was wobbling the whole game during Man City Chelsea. It was really off. Once I'd noticed it, it was really off-putting.
Sometimes when your eye gets trained to it, it goes through your head.
It's all I could see. Desk. It was really off-putting.
So I'm going to stop leaning on it. To be honest with you, this game, it was a great game to be at and an enjoyable. You want football is about emotions, right? You've talked so much about when you've been at Spurs and it's dead. And again, we've lost a game at home that we could have got something out of. In this instance, compared to some of the games like Brentford or what have you, didn't actually deserve to get anything out of, but was still in it all the way to the end. and it swung from end to end. I think Leeds learned from last week and upped their intensity. And the game kind of went in waves where we started very sluggish and Leeds came out and said, right, we're gonna go at you and we're gonna play and get the ball high up the pitch quickly, and scored early. And suddenly you're like, okay, like it's fine. It's 5 minutes in. Wake up, boys, and let's go for it. And I think that was a trigger to West Ham to say, right, okay, if we don't play with intensity against Leeds, it's not us, it's anyone. They'll come at you and they'll create chances and score goals. And then we had a period where we did well and create chances and equalised. And you're thinking, all right, this is pretty decent. But then Leeds did the same thing again, and they upped their intensity, and we didn't cope with it. Half time, we came out after half time, and I thought we were going to win because I thought Moyes had got in them, and we'd increased our intensity again, equalised again. But then every time we raised our game for 5 or 10 minutes, Leeds came back with their intensity and did us over again, end to end, breathless. Obviously, they had the stupidly disallowed goal, which I understand should have been disallowed. You don't really like.
It's right. It's nice.
Yeah, offside. But it is. But you don't like to see those.
Well, if Rodrigo doesn't moan at Rafinha and does what Raul Jimenez did and make sure he gets out of the way, because the same thing happened where Jimenez blocked it, but he was already in the goal. Then it doesn't matter. He stopped on he got stopped on the goal. He didn't even look at who was behind him or what was happening. Get out of the way, man. Anyway,
but I think there's a handful of things to kind of take away. Diop, like we need Zuma back. Diop had a mare. The amount of times he got caught on the ball, like it's Leeds. What do you think you're going to get? 5 seconds, 10 seconds to play the ball, and Leeds are clearly targeting him as one to start the press on and put the pressure on. The amount of times he gave the ball away was frustrating or got caught in possession. Creswell started taking set pieces again, but at 5.3, I think I'd take Luca Dean at 5 million all day long because we're not keeping clean sheets for a little while, for sure. And towards the end of the game, I don't know if Moyes was playing a few Hail Marys in terms of his substitutions, bringing on Yarmolenko for Fornals, bringing on Masuaku for Vlasic, and then bringing on Sonny Perkins at the end. All felt like moves where I was like, what's our strategy now here? What's our formation? What are you trying to do other than just flood the attacking third of the pitch with more bodies that are fresh? This is a Hail Mary. There's no strategy in it. 3-2, Bowen realises he's got ahead in the last second and we equalise. But yeah, credit to Leeds. I don't think there's still anything particularly from Leeds that I'd want to go to other than Rafinha without Bamford there. They're still a little bit put together with some sticky tape. But from West Ham's point of view, Bowen, again, could have been a double-digit haul easily. Antonio, still the highest scoring striker in the game and could have scored again, but didn't. So yeah, I'd keep West Ham attacking assets in Bowen and Antonio, although Antonio is expendable if you wanted to get a Watkins. I wouldn't even touch West Ham defensively. In Leeds, it's Rafinha or nothing is my FPL take on it.
So you wouldn't consider Jack Harrison, who now has more FPL points than Lukaku or Kane?
No. I would be interested to know, and I haven't even bothered looking at Jack Harrison's stats, but it's 20 points. So 29 points in the last two games out of how many? 58. So that's exactly half his points, James, have come in the last two games. No, I wouldn't consider Jack Harrison.
He was informed then, isn't he? No, same as that. I just think circumstance transpired for him that it worked out. I have to say on the third goal, Suj, flappy.
Yeah, bad. But
they should be getting there. They shouldn't even be getting the shot in. Should be getting now.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed. I mean, he saved us so many times and he's been so consistent that sometimes it doesn't go the way you want it to go. We'd beaten Leeds 4 times in a row, but I don't think in any of those games Leeds had ever been able to be Leeds. And yesterday they played to their potential. When you're playing against them like that, if you try and have time on the ball, you're shooting yourself in the foot. You've got to play instinctively and break out quickly and get the ball up the pitch quickly. We didn't do too many passes left short or misplaced, got hurt, take it on the chin, move on. We know what we did wrong. The manager knows what we did wrong. The players know what they did wrong. And yet, this has been the case with every West Ham game this season that we've lost, bar Manchester City away. we were always in it to possibly nick something or get something out of it. And we've got to take some kind of positivity out of that.
Do you think any of the 479 people who bought Jack Harrison last week are listening to this podcast?
Do I think that any of the 479 people that bought Jack Harrison have a heartbeat or are human? Or have blood flowing in their veins?
It'll get more than 479 buys this week. On a serious note of caution, when Brentford comes back into the team, I'm not sure if that means James and Harrison are in competition on the left-hand side specifically. So I'd be a little bit cautious of that. I agree with you, Suj. Rafinha or no is where we're at. He's such a joy to watch. That hole is around the corner. And I feel like last time I said that it came as well at Newcastle. And it might come, really, really should have hauled the last time the two sides met on that Friday night game. So Rafinha's not out of the equation. And I think if we got an announcement before the weekend that Villa Leeds was going to go on that FA Cup fourth round weekend, I would smash into Rafinha before I smashed into Coutinho and stuff. Rafinha double. I'm not even bothered about the fixtures. Yes, please.
And that's a wrap up of the games, James, which we have done.
Antonio, hold on.
What about him?
Snog, marry, avoid? No, seriously. I saw a comment last night and it made me think that this was probably correct. He's either world class or he's park.
He wasn't park yesterday.
As in parkability.
No, I don't think he was that bad yesterday.
But I just think.
I don't think he was that bad yesterday. It's a tough game against Leeds.
Yeah, I get that. But it shouldn't.
He works hard.
It shouldn't. It shouldn't be for an attacker, mate. It shouldn't be.
Yeah, I think we lost the game in the midfield. I didn't see anything. Look, he's got 3 returns in the last. Well, he's got 4 returns in the last 5. He's ticking along. Yeah, he's not been explosive, but look at West Ham as a team, right? In the last, we scored 2 goals yesterday. Scored 2 against Norwich. Scored 3 against Palace. Scored 4 against Watford. 2 against Southampton. We've scored 2 or more goals in our last 5 games. Yeah, he's only picked up 2 of them. But he's always in that there and thereabouts. Does he have players around him that can create chances? Yes, he does. And will he continue to tick along at 5s and 6s as an average for the rest of the season? Yes, he will. It's your choice.
Listen, I really rate him as a player. He's an absolute pain in the arse. Never want to see him go up against my own team. I think you're definitely weaker, obviously, if he doesn't play and stuff like that. Reality is, and I ask this from an FPL perspective, since the hauls in the first 3 game weeks, Ronaldo, Dennis, Edward, St. Maximin, Watkins, King, Breuer, Maupay, Vardy, and Jimenez have all scored more FPL points than Antonio.
Yeah.
And he's played all through that period.
Yeah.
Watford at home in 24, Newcastle at home in 26. Makes me nervous about selling him now.
Exactly that. It's FOMO is the word I was about to use, James, with Antonio. It's always there with Antonio, that FOMO that sometimes you don't have. Like, I have more FOMO of Antonio than I do of Cristiano Ronaldo, which is why I might let Cristiano Ronaldo go for Watkins ahead of letting Antonio go for Watkins, because West Ham is still creating chances and still scoring goals and are still an attacking threat in any game, regardless, bar Manchester City.
There is a side plot about selling Antonio as well. Is at the moment, Bowen is the best asset of the two. I think we can all agree on that, Suj, yeah?
Yeah.
Now, you ain't got no game to rearrange, and we can't see what's to come. And it probably means that at any point, there's a chance that he's going to become expendable in any case. Where do you suddenly land? 24 admittedly is a midweek fixtures, but where do you suddenly land for 26 if Antonio's got Newcastle at home, but there are other players who've got brilliant doubles and stuff? He's going to be expendable and stuff, isn't he? It's the quickest place to look.
We've just had a double game week where all the single game week players have outscored all the double game week.
Yeah, no, it's very true. And to be honest, exactly that. I did not want to get rid of him ahead of playing Leeds. Now Leeds is out the way and Norwich is out the way. I feel a little bit more like I can move him on, obviously. And to be fair, I wouldn't be surprised if he returned at Old Trafford. Watford afterwards, Leicester away, not great defensively, right? Newcastle at home. Antonio, again, has proven anyway, I don't even worry about the fixtures. I think he's a consistent animal and can return at any time. The reality is, do I think he outscores, say, Ollie Watkins over the next 6-7 weeks? At the moment, not on what I'm watching.
No.
Even if there's no doubles in there, and there probably is going to be.
Yeah, there we go. Do you want to wrap up the content for the rest of the week, James? Because people have probably got enough ringing through their head with all of the games. I'm going to pick 2 questions from the Twitter questions we've had that I think are the best.
People's poll vote is live up to around about 6:30 p.m. this evening. But I'll be honest, we do look like we're going to have a clear winner, as I mentioned earlier. What is going on at Everton and how did it get this bad? Also, the other 2 topics up for vote are, why do dressing room cliques exist and how damaging can they be? I read a fascinating piece on The Athletic at the weekend that made me think of this as a topic. And is homophobia in football stadiums on the rise? I've certainly seen some bad experiences involving Tottenham fans over the last few weeks. There's a number of growing reports, even in lower league, like League One, League Two, of homophobic abuse being chanted in football stadiums as well. Those losing topics, and I presume they will be, we will come back for patrons 100%. Wednesday, Sky Fantasy Football. Thursday's Clash of Correspondence, pain for me, is Chelsea versus Tottenham with rotation FPL and Ricky Saunders. And Friday, we'll do this again, Suj. We'll have a little overview of the 4 games from midweek and what our plans are for 23. Who knows, might have a fixture update by then. Our Patreon podcasts include Q&A today. Tomorrow, we're going to be looking at something interesting, Suj, where we ask what happens if the clock stops? What would football look like if it was on a timer, i.e. if the clock was stopped every time the ball went out of play? Wednesday, you've got a quiz on African players in the Premier League. Thursday will be Tottenham, so we can take in Leicester Tottenham. Thursday night, we'll do our Game Week 23 preview on Friday. The advanced tier content includes, as I said, a closer look at Philip Coutinho in this week's Talking Tactics.
Yeah, indeed. There's always additional stuff available on Patreon. So if you want to join and support the show, patreon.com/Planet FPL. You get an additional show each and every weekday at the intermediate tier. You get access to our Slack channel, which is really active and a good fun place to be. And in addition to that, there's some prize leagues and a few other bits and pieces as well. Sometimes we do Patreon meetups. Can't at the moment with all this COVID stuff, but all sorts of fun and games there. And not least, you keep the lights on and the bills paid. James, we're going to do a few questions here from Twitter, and we're going to be looking at non-FPL questions. Mr. B, I like this one. Ever called the 606?
Was there any FPL stuff not covered? Anything?
There's too many that I'm going to read through to find out. But
thanks, guys. See you later. Ciao. Thanks for your questions.
We chat for an hour and a half. I think most stuff is. Have you ever called the 606 or other football phone in to have a rant about your team? And what was the rant? No, me neither. However, on Wednesday night, when I was driving home from the Norwich game, I almost phoned in TalkSport, mainly because we'd just beaten Norwich and you had obviously just lost to Chelsea, and the entire phone-in was Spurs fans. And they were like, where are all the West Ham fans? I was like, is there literally not a single one that's bothered phoning in? I thought I might do it, but I can't be arsed, mate, to be honest with you. Farmer Rich, what's your favourite way to enjoy an egg? Scrambled?
Yeah, I see.
Yeah, scrambled, man. I don't mind scrambled, but find it a bit sloppy. I'm a poached guy, poached or boiled all day long. And I love an egg and cress sandwich, mate. If you go to Tesco, meal deal, egg and cress.
As if I'm ever picking up the egg and cress.
Egg and cress, always, mate, is
picking
my go-to.
Meat, yo.
I don't know why. It's just creature of habit. Egg and cress, cheese and onion, and a coconut water. You all now know my £3 meal deal.
As well. It's so random. You only get the coconut water because it's quite a large package, isn't it?
And it's expensive, so I feel like getting more money. Oh, it's like I got the most expensive drink, but the cheapest sandwich. Who knows what's going on in my head? Amber Redmond, what's the spiciest thing you've ever eaten?
Oh my God, Nando's lemon and herb. No, not really. No,
James is not a spicy guy.
We went to an Indian. I don't know what the sauce was. I've told you this before.
Yeah.
And she went, "Don't touch that sauce." And I put a little bit on my finger, and I was like, "How bad could it really be? Let's have a little try." Next minute later, the old restaurant thinks I've got COVID.
I've eaten all sorts of spicy chilies. Some that you end up like it's just 1 second of pain. I bought some chilies. I went on holiday to the Isle of Wight, mate, and they've got a little chili farm there called the House of Chili. So anyone that goes to the Isle of Wight, look at House of Chili. They sell all sorts of chili sauces and stuff, and they sell these little baskets of chilies. And I chopped one for a curry we were making that evening. We were with some friends. Tiniest little piece. You're talking a centimetre square piece of chili that went into the food. I made the fatal mistake of rubbing my eyes afterwards. Fuck me, my eyes were burning afterwards for a good half an hour, washing them out and stuff. Yeah, so that kind of was up there as one of the hottest. And FPL Kaka wants to know, James, who's your favourite Pokemon and why?
I only know one.
Who's that? Pikachu.
I couldn't tell you any
James
others.
Pikachu.
So,
I'm going to go Mewtwo, and ask me why. And I have literally no idea, other than I just know Mewtwo looks like a badass, super powerful.
See, this is the same guy who failed a drugs test at Chelsea, or not?
Similar, but not quite the same. A few Twitter questions answered for you guys, only because of the length of the show. I know some people tell me that they listen on 1.3 or 1.5 speed just because it's the easiest way to get through it. And that will be that. Of course, though, loads of other content keep you busy all week. So you know where to stay tuned and stay subscribed. Stay safe as well. And ciao for now.
Thanks, everyone. Be nice to each other. No early transfers again, please, people. Cue music, please, man, show.